Hey everyone, welcome to another BTM screencast. Today we're going to be going over Chapter 18, Miter and Radial Arm Saws. So power miter saws, which we have in the lab, have circular blades mounted above the base. The saw is rotated down onto the material using a chopping action, right? So you've probably seen this used, or maybe you even used it. Just grab it and go bzzz, and cut the stuff. Some models also slide out for wider cuts, which is the type that we have here. So the entire head will come out, and then you can put down and then push and then cut the whole thing. A chop saw, so we also have these, and the power miter saw can also be used as a chop saw. So it comes with 10, 12, 14, and 16-inch diameter blades. The ones that we have in lab are the 12-inch blades. We do have older ones that are in the tool closet or upstairs, and those are 10-inch blades. The saw cuts with an up-down motion, so again, it just pivots, it goes bzzz, that's it. It doesn't do anything beyond that. It doesn't have the ability to slide. The angle cuts are made by a rotating stock on the base, so it'll move, and that's it. And they're also designed to cut metal, so some of you last year have used a chop saw to cut the steel studs. So this is what some of them look like. These are the metal ones. So this one down here should look kind of familiar for some of you, I would think, maybe. If not, you can do it this year. Power miter saws are designed to cut wood. The blades diameters range from 8 to 12 inches. So again, the one that we have is the 12-inch one. More possible adjustments than with the chop saw. The saw base moves left and right. The saw head may tilt left and right. So the entire saw can move one way or the other, but then the head to it can also tilt one way or the other. That gives it the ability to cut compound miters. So a miter is just one angle, and this you can cut two angles at the same time. So this is an example of one. So this is very similar to the one that we have in the lab. So you can see that this base here, this lets us know what angle it is, and then we're able to move this entire base to get the angle that we want. And then up here, this also pivots. So we're able to unlock this, and then we can tilt the head that way, or we can tilt it that way. Sliding compound miter saw, same features as other miter saws, but the saw head slides out on rails towards the operator so you can do a wider cut. This is the type that we have in the lab. It's used to cut large crown moldings, and the blade may be adjusted to the compound angles using the preset stops on the saw. So when you guys go to use it, you'll see that you can unlock it, and then you move it, and you'll hear it's like a pinging. You go bing, 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 and it'll stop, and it'll lock specifically in preset angles. Now, you don't need to use those angles, but they're easy, and they're the ones that are most frequently used. So here's an example of what that looks like. Now, the one that we have in the lab is a DeWalt one, not a Hitachi. But you can see, again, the base down here. You can choose the angle that you want. This head will pivot side to side. And then here's the arms that allow it to slide out. Miter saw accessories. So some models have laser lights that show where the blade will cut. A lot of times this isn't the case. It's close, but not exact. Retrofits can be made to other models with a laser washer. So one thing to note, if you're going to use this and it has the laser light on it, always double check, right? Especially when you're doing finish work, because the chances of that laser being off enough to make a difference in your finish work, it's a high likelihood. So just go by where the blade is. And you can see here that this light is showing you there. Again, always double check. Safety, safety, safety. So positioning this is very important. Do not cross hands and arms when cutting, right? You don't want to go like this and all sorts of stuff. Walk up to it. You don't want your hands crossed. One hand, support your material, come down. If the stock is on the left side of the blade, hold it with the left hand, right? So if I'm over here, stock's here, I'm holding it here. I grab the handle with the right, squeeze the trigger, bring it down. If the stock is on the right, hold it on the right. So I'd put this hand down, and then I'd take my left hand, grab it, and then come down. If you want to cut identical lengths, you can fasten a stop block to the table in the desired location. So we'll go over this. I consider this more of production work. If you're only going to do 1 or 2 cuts, you can measure and that's okay. But if you're going to be doing multiple cuts at the same length, it pays to put a stop block in place. So here's an example of what a stop block looks like. And you're able to take this, clamp it, and your material slides up. This is a fancy one with the rabbited end. It doesn't need to be. It can be a solid end. That's fine. But your blade would be down here, and then you're able to slide that in. It stops, so the distance between here and your blade is the same every single time. Radial arm saws, they're used mostly for cross-cutting. They may be used for ripping. The radial arm saw is an older style industrial saw. We do not have these in the lab. We do not use these in the lab. So, yeah, they're old, they're dangerous. They're not necessary for what we do here. Here's an example of what they look like. So you can see where people get in trouble with this. Cross-cutting. So when you cross-cut, that's just going right across the grain, right? The material is placed against the fence, and it's made by sliding the saw forward. So for us, when we cross-cut with the miter saw, the material goes right up against the fence. It's held in place. Again, one hand on, the other hand brings down, cuts. Care must be used to pull and at the same time resist the saw's tendency to self-feed into the cut. So keep that in mind. Dull blades self-feed more than sharp blades. Sharp blades are safe blades. Dull blades are dangerous blades. Keep that in mind. And here's the radial arm saw, which this one's really nice, especially because you can see the sawdust would come out, which is pretty cool because you're working right here. So hopefully it'd come up, blow in your face. We don't use them. Ripping. Although it's possible to rip with a radial arm saw, it's advised to use a table saw instead. That's why we have a table saw. So if you want to use a table saw, you know the drill. You're going to have to do a safety essay, demonstration, all that fun stuff. In conclusion, when using these saws, job number 1 is safety. Miter saws include chop saws and sliding miter saws, both of which we have in the lab. They're designed to cut a variety of materials, including steel, which you should have done last year. Radial arm saws are best suited for cross-cutting. And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. If not,